What if therapy isn't about fixing what's wrong with you, but figuring out what's getting in your way? That's the topic that Katie and I will be addressing today on the Recovering Relationships podcast. If you've ever wondered what really happens in therapy, or if you're nervous about taking that first step, this conversation is for you. We'll talk about things like what therapy is or isn't, some of the misconceptions, and why asking for help is really a sign of strength. But let's introduce ourselves. I'll go first. My name is Janice Johnson Dowd. I'm the mother of four, a licensed master social worker. I've worked for years with children, families in the addiction and mental health field. But most importantly, I am an individual in long-term recovery, and my goal is to help other individuals and families heal their relationships after addiction and to be successful in their efforts to maintain their recovery. So that's just a little bit about myself. Katie, what would you like to share about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Katie. I'm Janice's daughter. I'm not a professional in this world or realm at all. I just have some lived experience being the daughter of an alcoholic. And yeah, I'm the general manager of 2 restaurants. And yeah.
Well, I am really glad to have you here. And since it's been a while since we've taped, I want to say that Katie has been a huge help to me in everything that I've been doing lately since I wrote my book and started speaking and educating other counselors and individuals about recovery. But let's get back to today's topic. So, therapy. Is it good? Is it bad? Do you have to hit rock bottom before you start into therapy? Katie, what do you think are people's biggest concerns or questions about therapy? What do you think the general public's idea is about therapy?
Well, I want to quickly apologize if you hear my dogs barking. We have someone mowing the lawn right now, and the dogs have been intermittently barking at the lawnmower sound. So I definitely apologize if that's coming through at all. But I think that there are a lot of connotations that come with therapy and assumptions, like people that haven't grown up with therapy as being normal is people think that you only need therapy if you have a problem, or only weak people go to therapy that can't solve their own problems, or you have to be crazy to need a therapist. And I think all of that is sad because I think therapy, everyone should go to therapy. I think therapy is super beneficial to just living in today's world. It's hard. It's hard being a human. It's hard being a human around other humans. And I think that we all need to give ourselves a little bit of grace, but also there's so much you can learn from therapy. And if not about yourself, if you think you're perfect, maybe there's something to learn about other people from therapy. And be able to understand how other people work a little bit more, but also like you will learn a lot more about yourself too in the process, and learn how to cope with life better in the process and grow as a human. And I love therapy. Therapy has allowed me to grow in a million different ways and feel a lot better in a million different ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that answer the
thank you for
question?
sharing. Yeah, that was great, Katie. And I think what I like to try and tell people when they ask questions that you don't have to feel like you're stuck. You can think of therapy almost as coaching, just like any good athlete has gotten to where they are because they're still asked for help. Even the best athletes still get coaching. And now, what you alluded to that I think is really important is that being the child of a social worker, and I don't think we ever participated in any kind of family therapy prior to my developing an alcohol use disorder, but I would like to think that I always laid out the foundation that therapy was it was okay to ask for help. It was okay to go to the school counselor if you needed some support.
I think I grew up very privileged in a lot of ways, but in our school system, in grade school, we had the school counselor come from class to class. She'd come like, I don't know, monthly or bi-monthly and do like fun games about learning about emotions when you were like real young, to talking about peer pressure in like middle school. And then in high school, we had like a peer counseling program, and I was a part of that. And I grew up being kind of like you, how you describe how you were in high school and grade school, is that you always wanted to like be a high achiever and you were hard on yourself. And anyways, I think that I would describe myself as a high achiever in high school as well. And being a part of like the peer counselors, that was a privilege to be a part of. And that made hanging out with our high school counselor cool. And so I think counseling and therapy has always been a normal part of my life, even if I didn't have like a formal counselor or therapist until you went to rehab. Yeah. And then in my adult years, I've gone to a couple of different therapists. But yeah, I mean, I definitely did take like a hiatus from therapy for a while. But then there came a point in time that I was like, I need to go and help sort through some stuff. But yeah, I think it's been a
Let me
normal
jump
part
in
of
there
my
because
upbringing.
so you see it as normal. So what would you say to the person who, because I get this question asked all the time, what should a person expect on their first counseling session? Because I know, like you said, you've taken a break, you've gone back, and I have too. I mean, I've done therapy off and on ever since I was a social worker because a good social worker addresses their own issues. A good therapist has been in therapy. And I remember my first therapy experience, but what is for the everyday person, what is that very first appointment like? What happens? Do you
The very
remember?
first appointment is generally like an interview. The counselor takes a lot more notes in the first session um,
Mm-hmm.
to get to absorb everything you're saying, unless as time goes on, because then, your therapist generally gets to know you really well. But in that first session, I know it's always been note taking and lots of questions being asked, and basically as much as
And
you information as you can provide in the first session, the better, I think. But it's also getting to know your therapist as well.
great point. So it's both of you getting to know each other. Are you allowed to ask the therapist questions about themselves?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that it's important also to, before you choose a therapist, to do a lot of research online to make sure you are not just going to like a random therapist. Any kind of therapist is good, right? But I think that there's a lot of research that goes before that to make sure, if you've been through something traumatic, that you're going to a therapist that specializes in trauma. If you're struggling with disordered eating, that you're going to a therapist that has experience in that. If you've been struggling with addiction, that you're going to a therapist that has a lot of knowledge in that, whatever it may be, or family issues, that you're going to a therapist that specializes in family issues. Yeah. I
I
think
love that
that's
you
good
point that out.
to,
I think that's so, so important. And I might take this point to point out too that there are a variety of different therapists out there too in terms of licensing and those things. And that's another thing that you should investigate. And I hate to say this too, sometimes you have to ask them questions ahead of time, like what insurance do you take?
yeah, that's
Do you
important too.
do individual sessions? Do you do group sessions? Do you take cash payments? Those kind of things. But let's go back to them because those are business items. I think those can be resolved pretty quickly. Um, when you're in that first session, how do you know if you feel like, what if you go to that first session and you go, I don't think I'm going to connect with this person? How do you know if it's a good fit or not? And how important is it to have a good fit with your therapist?
Well, maybe you answer this question and we throw this question back to you.
Well, I would say, first of all, from a patient's point of view, I've got to feel like that person listens to me, that I can trust them, that they're not going to disclose things to other people outside. But I think it's kind of, you got to trust your gut instinct. Does this feel like a fit? Do I feel like I can trust this person? Do I want to come back, or are they
Yeah.
pushy?
Do I
What
feel
kind of things would
safe?
turn you off? Have you
Yeah.
had any bad experiences with therapists?
Yes.
What do you wish could have been different with your bad experience?
So my last two therapists, my current therapist and my therapist before that, I love and adore, and they've helped me immensely through a lot of different situations and then everyday situations too.
Mm-hmm.
But early in your recovery, when we all went to the same family counselor, I think that that was difficult because myself, my brothers, and my dad were all seeing the same person. And I think that, um,
There was a
it,
conflict of interest
yeah,
there. Let's just
yeah.
say that. Yeah. And that's kind of one of those
So
therapeutic issues. Can a family therapist see the members of the family separately and still maintain their trustworthiness, their credibility, all of that?
I think that that there probably are family therapists, that there's a lot of benefits from doing that, from everyone seeing the same person. But in this situation, it didn't work. I don't think that it remained an unbiased and all to every relationship she was
Mm-hmm.
having.
So, Katie, I'd like to hear your response to this. When should someone consider therapy?
I think someone should consider therapy for no reason at all. I think that everyone should consider therapy. But especially if you're starting to feel overwhelmed or anxious about a situation and you like everyday, normal, healthy coping mechanisms are not helping you get through it, then you should, I think, absolutely consider therapy. And yeah, it immediately helped me when I started getting panic attacks again a few years ago. And now it helps me separate, be able to calm myself down. But now that I'm not getting panic attacks regularly, now therapy just helps me sort through different issues that arise with work, different things that come up in our family, different things that come up in my relationship.
Challenge.
Yeah, and normal challenges, but sometimes from our childhood, from our past trauma, from our life leading up to, sometimes we don't always think about things in maybe the next level, healthy sort of way. And I think that it just helps you see things from new perspectives and grow. And I think that every situation that arises that can be talked about in therapy is as far as like a conflict goes, you can sort through conflict resolution in a better way and then grow and learn and develop. And the next time a similar conflict arises, you'll deal with it better and the situation will be better for everyone. The outcome, if even if one person has been in therapy in a conflict, two-person conflict, I guarantee you the resolution is going to be better the further along either or both people are.
Agree with that immensely. And you said a couple of different things. And the one is that sometimes we're going in for everyday issues and that we get help with that. And once we get to that position, we're able to look at the issues that are underlying that problem. Like our childhood, how our childhoods impact the current functioning now. I would just like to add to sure signs that you should encourage yourself or a loved one to seek therapy is when you see someone have noticeable changes in their sleeping, eating, functioning, if they're over exercising, oversleeping, things like that are red flags. But
Yeah.
I love how you pointed out it. We don't have to get to the red flag position. And once you've developed that relationship with a person, you might go for one reason and see that there are other things you can work on. And in fact, in a good marital counseling session or family counseling session, you'll tend to find out that some of the surface level conflicts have nothing to do with what's going on. It's historical stuff that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
So you brought up a really important issue. What if you're in a couple, one person is doing the therapy work? Sometimes I've seen people be threatened by the fact that their loved one is in therapy, especially if they start using some of the, jargon or the psychobabble, like you're pushing my limits. I'm having to set boundaries with you. How do we help our loved ones understand the changes that we're making when we're in therapy? And this is a big issue when it comes to addiction and recovery. But I want this podcast also to apply, especially this one, to therapy for anyone. So,
Yeah.
how can you help your loved one understand what the therapeutic experience is like for you when they're not going to it with you?
I think that's a great question and a great question that I probably don't have a fully correct answer for. But yeah, I would say being, because this question also slightly reminds me of when you first went to treatment and you were using some of the jargon against us and it didn't feel fair at the time. So I would say try not to use the jargon against your loved ones. You know what I mean? Like, don't use therapy as a weapon against someone else. I would say try and use therapy to work on yourself. Your therapy sessions are not going to fix someone else. Your therapy sessions are going to fix you. So I would say try not to use the jargon against your loved ones and family and friends. Like, it's fine if your therapist and you are having conversations to help you understand what might be happening with someone else. But I think that using therapy against someone is going to cause further conflict.
I love that. It hurts my heart that you keep saying the word against, because I think that's a reflection of how wounded you were from our experience. But the points that you made about using the jargon in general, try not to use the jargon. Maybe discuss with your therapist, how can I help my partner adapt to this, which would be, open communication.
Yeah.
But what you said is
Communicating.
fabulous. That you're going to therapy for yourself. You're not going to therapy for your loved one to fix them. So
Yeah. Yeah.
excellent point, Katie. Um, what's the one thing you wish every individual knew before they went to their first session?
There's nothing's going to be fixed instantly.
How long does it take to get fixed? And
Are
do
any
you
of
get
us ever
fixed?
fixed? Are any of us ever fixed? I do think that, like, for example, I've gotten to a point with my therapist that she's like, okay, so do you want to call me when you need another session? And I'm like, no, let's go ahead and just put one on the calendar, even if it's a month away. So, like, I think that some people drift out of therapy because they feel like even maybe their therapist is like, okay, I feel like you've reached a healthy point. But I don't know. For me, it's like life still is going to come up. And right now, like, work has been so crazy in the summer that, like, I'm super excited about my therapy appointment tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, I need this. Work has been nuts. So, yeah.
And now let's talk for a minute about group therapy. I love group therapy because you hear other people's points of view. I learn from their experiences, and also I can get feedback. When you go to like a 12-step meeting, you're not allowed to give each other feedback. You just share your experience, strength, and hope. But in group therapy, you get feedback from multiple people. Also, when people share their stuff, sometimes it triggers your own stuff and you realize, oh, I am still struggling with that. Someone's struggling with a
Yeah.
loss of a parent or a grandparent. I realize I still have grief work to do. I thought I had resolved most of my grief issues, but nope. I've got grief work to do. And you know that I do not handle loss well. So, all right, let me throw this out. Sometimes therapy can be painful, right? Sometimes growth can feel uncomfortable. Now,
Yeah.
a classic example is, when the alcoholic or addict starts drinking or using, a lot of feelings come up. But have you had experiences where going to therapy was uncomfortable, that you had to go through a little painful stage before you got to the healing part?
Yes. When dealing with tougher issues, you've got to face them and acknowledge them in order to get through them. So, absolutely.
Has your therapist ever said anything that you didn't like hearing?
Um, hmm.
I can certainly say yes, all the time.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I think that if you're not in therapy to improve yourself and your own reactions to things and how you handle things, like, things are going to happen no matter what. One of my things I would preemptively say about therapy is not meant to your therapist isn't meant to just like go boost your ego. Isn't meant to like tell you everything you're doing is right and nothing you're doing is wrong. Your therapist isn't meant to just like pat you on the back and say, it's okay. It's okay. Your reaction was okay. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you reacted that way because of this, and like justify your actions. You should be going to therapy to improve your reactions, not just to add justification for something or your feelings about something or another.
I think that you approach therapy with an open mind, that you're expecting to be challenged a little bit. That's what I'm hearing you say, that you'll be open to the feedback they give you.
But yeah, I don't know. I want to continue to deal with tough situations better and better each time.
I'm really proud of the work that you do, by the way, and everything. All right, let's see. What other areas of this topic have we not addressed? I would say this: the goal is not perfection, it's progress. You
Yeah.
mentioned that you don't get fixed, but I think it's important to have realistic goals, and that healing is a process. And in my experience, there have been things that were uncovered in therapy that I wouldn't say blacked out on, but definitely had dismissed. One of the big issues, like big trauma versus small trauma, that is a topic that I'm very passionate about. I no longer like the definition of big T versus little t, because I think trauma is trauma. And from my own experience, I totally dismissed some of my childhood trauma because I had put it into the category of it's not as bad as someone else's.
Yeah.
So when someone defined it as, well, that's little trauma because it didn't involve this, then I was like, I still have big feelings about it. My feelings must be wrong,
Yeah.
or something must be wrong with me because I'm really still cycling through the guilt and the shame over that experience.
Yeah.
Just a little PSA out there. A lot of therapists will disagree with me, but I think we have to validate, and that might be one of the most important things that happens in therapy is that our feelings are validated. There's no good or bad feelings, right or wrong feelings. Uh,
Yeah.
so now I will say this, a lot of therapists and a lot, especially in marital counseling and sometimes in group counseling and early on in early recovery, sometimes assignments are given, homework are given. Okay. So Katie, has your therapist ever given you homework and was it beneficial? Did you do it? Did you hold back?
Yeah, my therapist gave me a folder of homework to do one time. But also she gave me some like new tools to try and different things to do whenever I was like feeling panicky, or really
Mm-hmm.
stressed. Yeah.
I love that. Well, and my therapist is really big on homework and tools too. It is easy for me to procrastinate on it. So I have to be pretty disciplined in order to get it done. Some might say that's me avoiding that particular issue. Some might say it's just me being really, really busy. I don't know, but I think the homework is a big part of it because what you get out of therapy also reflects on what you put into it. You have to
Yeah.
put
I
into it.
think
You
it's
have to,
completely up to you.
right, take some chances. It's okay if the process is slow, though,
Yeah.
if it takes time. Point being is that there's a number of different therapeutic tools that your therapist can help you with, different styles, and there's different styles of therapy. But that's part of also, exploring what type of therapist you would like to work with. All right, let's see. If the goal isn't perfection, if the goal is progress, how quickly do you think you could see change?
I Again, I think it's completely up to you. And some things take more time than others. You know what I mean? Like if you're really dealing with a mental illness at that point in time, progress is going to be slower. And but the point is to make progress, to take even if it's baby steps forward, and little by little,
Mhm,
like it will get better.
mhm,
But as far as everyday things, I think that it's completely up to you. It's up to you and you doing things differently to move forward.
mhm,
You know, therapy is not about like going and crying to someone every day. It's about maybe doing a little bit of crying to someone, but figuring out how you can improve how you handle that situation differently and better the next time. So, and things that you can change to change the situation. So,
okay. So, to our listeners, we would love to hear about your therapeutic experiences. What worked, what didn't work. And we'd also love for you to like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast. We are still working out a few kinks as we learn this new platform, but very excited about it. If there are topics that you are interested in hearing, and we have a whole slew of them on a list that we're going to address, but please comment. And thank you so much for being here today. Katie, do you have any closing thoughts?
no, I love you, Mom. Everyone go buy my mom's book.
Okay. Well, that being said, please also check out both my Instagram, parenting_in_recovery. And I do a number of speaking events around the country. And I'm happy to come to your community to speak on issues from mental health, adolescence, family recovery, individual recovery. Um,
And
and
if you don't
I
have a
appreciate your being.
therapist, go find one
Absolutely. Find a
because it's
therapist.
great.
But there are good resources.
Just
How do
go
you
to your
find a
basic
therapist, Katie?
go to your basic search engine, whatever your search engine is of choice, and in your location and search therapists, and you'll have a whole list that comes up. You'll have links that come up, but look into their specialties, look into what kind of licensing they have, look at their reviews. It's not
And
that
ask
hard.
your
Just
family
go
and
search
friends.
away.
Yeah. Who do you know? Ask for feedback.
And then
And you
call them
can,
and say, "Do you take my insurance?" And then just schedule an appointment.
right? Well, and
It'll
like you
take
said,
like 2 minutes.
you make it sound so easy, Katie. It can be. All right. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. And Katie, I love you from the bottom of my heart. I'm so
I love
grateful
you.
for this experience. And I am going to hit stop and say a prayer that it
Thanks for
works.
listening.